Welcome back to ReadingBear. Today, we will take a look at some new malicious compliance stories. And if you enjoyed my content, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel and post some bear emojis in the comments. Let's go!
The first one is titled, I have to make my own special Thanksgiving meal. Oh, it'll be special all right. With the holiday season coming up, I've been thinking about past years. My family and I differ in a lot of ways, but I especially differ from my mother. Ever since I was little, we couldn't see eye to eye. She's the type of person who prioritizes looking good in social settings, whereas I'm the type to not give a flying dolphin. She has expressed deep shame in who I am, and I have lost track of how many times she angrily asked, "Why can't you be normal?" As I've grown into an adult, I've found ways to understand her and try to keep peace. We learned we have a few things in common, like places to go, preferred scents in perfumes, and most surprisingly, a fondness for weed. She tends to hide that last fact. Now, one of the things my mum has been very bad about is tolerating that I'm vegan. I started as a teenager, but my mum wanted no part of it. She immediately stopped cooking anything for me, including plain side veggies that she would normally cook for everyone. Whatever, I learned to cook. Whenever family get-togethers happened, such as during holidays, birthdays, or any other event, my mum and her family deliberately offered nothing for me. I would have to bring my own food, or go hungry. Again, whatever, with their attitude, I don't think I'd trust anything they offered me anyway. One year, my parents were hosting Thanksgiving. As per usual, I expected to make my own mini Thanksgiving meal while she and my dad prepared the real Thanksgiving meal. Now, normally, I prepare a veggie roast, gravy, several sides, and a dessert. I make more than enough, and always place my stuff on the same table with the rest of the food, in case anyone wants any. Every year before, nobody else wanted anything. Weeks before the holiday, my mum did her annual tradition of reminding me to make my own food because she won't make anything for me. I already had recipes lined up and, until she said something, was feeling pretty stoked about what I had planned. Her unnecessary reminder only served to upset me. I made a new, more maliciously compliant plan. Fast forward to Thanksgiving. It's going pretty normal. Annoying relatives, loud TV blaring, my parents and I trying yet again to somehow share the oven. Just before the meal was to begin, some last-minute guests arrived. Two of my dad's cousins had traveled a few hours to get here. I barely knew them, but that was about to change. Shortly after, we were bonding up a storm. We had some overlapping interests, agreed on politics, and they wanted to try my food. Sure. But I had to warn them, the gravy is a bit special. See, what my mum doesn't know is that when she reminded me to cook, it actually reminded me that I had made some canna butter using vegetable oil just the other day. I figured, screw it, if nobody's going to eat any of my food anyway, I might as well get high off it. So I looked into vegan gravy recipes and used my special oil. When I explained the situation to my new favorite relatives, they thought it was hilarious. They also immediately wanted to try my gravy. We ended up chilling around the fire, laughing like old best friends. They promised never to tell anyone what I did. We now look forward to seeing each other every year. I haven't added any special ingredients to my big meals since then, but they still make space on their plates to try everything I make. The next one is titled, I can't wear headphones. Okay. I work at a fast food chain as a cook. The place is pretty laid back except one of the managers has a stick up her butt. When it's not too busy, they let us play music in the kitchen, so long as the customers can't hear it. The staff likes to listen to hip-hop most of the time, which I'm not a big fan of. I mostly listen to rock and crap. I don't want to hear what they play, so whenever they play music I put in a headphone. Loud enough so I can't hear their music but quiet enough so I can hear everything around me. So one day I'm making orders when my witchy manager notices I have a headphone in and tells me I need to take it out. Me, why? They can listen to their music, why can't I listen to mine? Which, because they can still hear everything around them, you can't with headphones in. Me, but I only have one headphone in and I can hear just fine, which, I don't care. You need to take it out. Me, okay, but can I play music out loud just like them? Which, so long as the customers can't hear it, yes. Me, okay. So long story short, after about 40 minutes of playing Baby Shark on repeat overtop their music, I was allowed to wear my headphone again. I'm sorry I put my coworkers through that, but it was the principle of a thing. The next one is titled, Boss Micromanages Even Though She Doesn't Know My Field. I finally stop arguing and do it her way, and it doesn't end well. I am the sole communications, social media person for a small company. I went to school in this field and have done it professionally in a few different spheres. My boss, on the other hand, doesn't even know what a Facebook or Twitter page looks like or what any of the buttons do. Yet she still micromanages me all day every day and I'm going crazy. I always schedule our email campaigns spread out enough so that people aren't getting bombarded, generally one per week at most. This is one of the most basic rules of comms and should be common sense even if you don't have a degree in this. Multiple times she has demanded that I post something immediately even though the next few slots are already filled with posts that are more time sensitive. She always tells me to just send both in the same day, and I have explained to her numerous times that that's a terrible idea, in nicer terms. Well, I gave my 2 weeks notice this past Monday, so I don't care anymore about fighting for what's best for the company. This time, I said I was going to push back each of our scheduled posts by one slot so we can post the listing for my job vacancy immediately, because for once the new post actually is more time sensitive than the others. Once again, she tells me to just post both the job listing and the one originally planned for that day. Fine. I send out both. It's been 3 days and we've already lost 11% of our subscribers and nobody has yet applied for my job since that listing was buried. I present stats on the success of our email campaigns, website, social media, etc. once per week to my boss's boss. I look forward to explaining this drop to him in a few days. The next one is titled, Yes, I Know Who Was Driving. No, I don't have to tell you. A year or so ago I got a new truck. The old truck got loaned to a buddy of mine while he was between cars. Maybe 2 months later I get a red light ticket for the old truck. I watched the video and my buddy was following too close to a bus and likely didn't see the light. Oh well, not a huge fine, no impact to my insurance, and one that my buddy will happily pay. My 3 options are pay online, respond by mail, or go to court. It really isn't worth my time to go to court, so I look online and there's an option for the registered owner to declare they weren't in control of the vehicle and a spot for a name, address, license number, anything they'd need to issue a new ticket. Interesting. I look at the mail in form and see that same option to say I wasn't driving, but it doesn't ask for someone else's name. Jackpot. I print the form, actually go out and purchase envelopes and stamps, and send it off to the courthouse. I got a dismissal notice a couple weeks later. The next one is titled, Go to Our Manager When You Screw Up. Sure thing. So, I used to work with this guy, let's call him Billy. At first, Billy was an okay guy when he stated and was getting trained up. Billy decided that this department wasn't for him and transfers out to a field position. Billy decides 2 months later that he wants to come back, and there is an opening for him. Billy is no longer an okay guy at this point. Billy became very bad at the job he was doing. He only had about a month's training in the position before he left, and when he came back he refused any further attempts to train him. He figured that since he was with us 3 months, that his training period was over, even though 2 of the 3 months were in another department. He was big into one-upmanship and lied through his teeth to seem cooler than other people at anything. Example, one of my coworkers was big into CS:GO. So Billy said he was a professional at CS:GO and played in tournaments. So he was asked his CS:GO rank, he gave some bullshit answer like Diamond. This attitude bled into his job where he pretended he knew what he was doing when he clearly didn't. On to the good old MC. Billy screwed up. A customer had an issue that Billy handled while he was the only one here. He did not do it right, and inconvenienced the customer for later, when the customer called me. Not a huge deal, but caused by a lack of following procedure from good old Billy boy. I fixed it, have proof that it was him, and shoot him an email as I work nights to his days and never saw him, reminding him that he needs to make sure to do it properly from now on. His response, via email, I did it right. Who do you think you are, telling me what to do? If you think I did something wrong then you need to go to our manager. Don't come to me about it, you are not my boss. I do have every right to point out your mistakes, Mr. Trainee. B. I do have every right to tell you what to do. While you are in training, I am your boss for all intents and purposes. You have been in the department for a total of a month and a half to my 2 years. I know what I'm doing far more than you. If I tell you did something wrong, trust me, you did it wrong. C. Tell our boss, oh, you got it. So begins my quest. I don't even have to try hard to find things that Billy is ducking up. Constantly failing to fill out information in a critical log? Check. Failing to follow procedure and screwing over customers? Check. Failing to do something that we are required by our contract with our client to do? Check. So every day my manager gets an email about him and all the screw-ups I find. After about a week my manager takes me aside before I leave and asks me why I'm emailing her and not helping to train him by pointing out his mistakes. So I show her Billy's email showing that he is refusing help, and inform her that everyone else is getting the same attitude from him. He got written up for unprofessional behavior and one more for failing to follow our procedures. He was told he needed to improve quickly. He did not improve quickly, and before he could be fired, he quit claiming he had a better job, and we never heard from him again. We don't even have a hard job. Sure, it's a little procedure heavy, but it's a desk job where you answer a few phone calls and radio calls. He had no college education, and had kids to support. This job was about the best he could hope to find in this city. The next one is titled, I wasn't doing the stocking well enough, so I fixed it. In 2010 I was working night shift at the nursing home where I lived as a NA training to become a CNA. One of night shift's duties were to stock all of the residents' bathrooms with anything the day shift might need during the day, and night shift was pretty good at it. Things stayed stocked and day shift never ran out. Well, about 6 months in night shift had a week-long period where we had 1 or 2 people pass away on the night shift, and that takes the whole staff. And we can't really deviate from tasks for non-menial tasks like stocking and put those above the care of the family of the loved ones that pass and the other residents in the facility. After a week of not being able to stock the way we liked, the complaints started pouring in the communication book that night shift wasn't doing our job. The charge nurse tried hard to have our back, but we were all still reprimanded. Finally things came to a boil when, after another really hard night, one of the day shifts started screaming at me in front of everyone and placed all of the blame on me. The director of nursing, Don, pulled me aside and helped calm me down. I was tired and lost someone that I really cared about that night. It's not just the families that lose a loved one when residents passes away. The Don helped me calm down and suggested I take the night off since I don't sleep well during the day and had already been working 6 days. I told her, no, I want to make sure that everyone knows how hard I work even when it doesn't look like it. And I made a plan. That next night, after we got our nightly information about the happenings of the day, I told the other CNA that I would be doing their stocking as well as my own. Puzzled but willing to hand off work, they complied. We had 2 really big carts that I stocked so high I was picking up supplies as I was going down halls to each room. Depends, robes, toothbrushes, toilet paper, mouth swabs, chucks, bed sheets, blankets, wipes, anything that was needed I stocked and then stocked again. I stocked them so well in rooms that rooms never ran out. Sometimes the stacks would get so high they threatened to fall. The cupboards literally had stuff falling on day shift, I stocked them so well. After a couple of months the complaints started coming in that day shift couldn't do their job well enough because they were spending too much time cleaning up stuff falling on top of them. Again, I was screamed at about not doing my job right and making it more difficult for day shift to do theirs. The whole time I'm being screamed at by a nasty man with a bad haircut. The Don and administrative director were in the office behind him and could hear everything. I looked at his stone-faced and said, wasn't it you who just a couple of months ago complained we weren't stocking well enough and inhibiting day shift's ability to do their job? All of the sudden I heard laughter coming from the office and he was pulled in and written up for harassment and bullying, which is a no tolerance in my facility. It became a regular way night shift stocked rooms, and from what I understand, even though I don't work there anymore, still is. The next one is titled, If It's Not in the Trash Can, Okay. This was a while ago, maybe 3 months ago. I'm a janitor in a business office building working as a contractor for a janitorial company. So I don't work directly for this office business. Whenever they have something to say about my work, it has to go to my contractor, cool guy by the way. You see, I hate this company with a passion, but it's the only place I can work for at the moment in the evening while I go to college in the day. They would try to save money by basically pointing out little things that the janitors did, like coffee stains in the carpet, long wavy markings on the walls, and a few other obscure things I can't remember, as an excuse to get us to deep clean the carpet for free or paint the walls for free. They never got away with it, but my contractor started getting complaints about throwing away cardboard boxes that the individual offices were still going to use. They basically made a hissy fit about how me and the other contractors in the neighboring office building, both buildings are owned by the same company, were mistaking boxes placed on or next to the garbage can as garbage. So my contractor told them that we will now ignore any boxes that weren't directly in the garbage cans or weren't clearly labeled as trash or garbage. The company agreed, and we did just that. Any boxes that weren't in the garbage can were placed aside and ignored. They also wouldn't label the boxes as trash, and so they started to pile up until one office wrote trash on one box and placed it on the rest. So as per agreement, I took that one box and threw it away. After a little while of doing this, all the boxes were cleared out one day, and the officers finally now write trash or garbage on all the boxes they want to throw away. The next one is titled, Testing the New Guy. A few years ago I was rehired by a company I worked at as a junior and cut me teeth with mechanical draftsman. I was about 25 at the time and had been doing this since I was 17 within the same industry, so I have a reasonable amount of experience. I was hired back as 2IC drafting manager in training because they wanted a succession plan. I knew a lot of the guys that worked there, as it was only about 4 years prior I left just to get more experience and lose my junior tag, so there was no ill will, and I still caught up with a bunch of the guys regularly, and it was basically like coming back home, if you will. First day, get introduced to the drafting team, myself being the youngest by about 7 years, and that's where I met Mr. Problem, we will call him. Instantly has his nose out of joint as I'm above him and 7 or so years younger, but what he fails to realize is he has been doing this about 5 years less than I have. No biggie, I expected some of this, and since I have little management experience, it's all a big learning curve to me. Everyone else who are older than him don't care, they treat me as an equal and come to me for advice on the work side of things, as I'm basically told I am first point of contact, and any technical or other issues I can't answer, we go to the manager as my training. Few weeks go by, no real issues, and I'm doing what I'm told and learning, etc. Now this is where it gets fun, and the drafting manager gives me my first challenge. We have a big job happening which has 4 of them working on it, with Mr. Problem just doing the little jobs like changing architectural backgrounds into our standard as we get new ones in. Usually every Tuesday morning we would have a new set of architectural, hydraulics etc. drawings to clean up and then overlay into our overall CAD model for the other draftsmen to use. This was his job. So the manager comes to me and says, I noticed Mr. Problem is booking 5 hours to sew this, can you have a look and let me know how long you think it should take? I have a look and say 10 minutes, I can get each CAD file cleaned up and ready. I say to my boss 10 minutes for me to do it, but to be nice I'll say 20 each for him and give him benefit of the doubt. So for the 5 files we get each week should take him just under 2 hours, not 5. He's like, cool, you're more generous than I was thinking, so you go find out why it's taking so long and basically give him a speed up butt kick. So I go over and go, hey Mr. Problem, these drawing changes are taking too long and should take less than half the time than you are taking. Well, here come the excuses about how it is not possible to do it any faster and whatever else was the issue. So I say to him, they really should only take you 10 minutes each, not an answer. His response was, no bloody way, that's impossible. This is where I go, nope, 10 minutes adequate, but we are giving you 20 minutes. So he decided to challenge me as I bet you can't do it that fast, so when you fail you can leave me alone. I accepted his challenge. He pulled out his phone timer and I jumped on his computer. Away we go and I start doing his job, and 6 minutes later I finish one file and proved to him that we weren't making it up. Now this is usual non-technical CAD work that any draftsman can do, nothing super complex you require oodles of experience for. From that day on, his time on this task halved weirdly enough, and well, he wasn't happy at all. Wasn't the last problem this guy caused, but it was the most memorable one. The last one is titled, Your Time is Worthless and Your Math Skills Ain't Great Either. Many years ago I had a college job working at the same place my dad did. My job entailed filling up 18-wheelers from 3 p.m. to 11 p.m. every night 40 hours a week. You meet some interesting people that way. Some truck drivers are the nicest people you will ever meet. Some, well, there is a reason they drive a truck, as it has to be one of the most socially isolating jobs in American society, save maybe a farmer working solo in a tractor for days on end. So a truck driver rolls in and I proceed to do my job. Write down vital info like plate number, unit number, and trailer number. Thump the tires and visually check for tire issues and any other obvious maintenance needs. Check the oil. Wash the windshield. Add fuel. Sometimes the driver would give you a direction on things: don't touch my windows, I use Rain-X, only put 50 gallons in, etc. In this particular case I pumped 97 gallons in and the driver went in to pay and whatever else he needed to do at the truck stop. That's when the situation blew up. Apparently he lost his stuff over using an out-of-network card that cost him a whopping 2 cents more per gallon. He went round and round with the fuel clerk to no avail, and finally I was summoned to the desk. We were to remove the fuel from his tanks. He was not going to pay such a vast sum and wanted to prove a point. So we summoned my dad from the shop. Mind you, this was a huge money loser for him. I was paid hourly, but he was a diesel truck tech and paid on commission on things he did. Pumping fuel out of a jerk's truck paid exactly $0, but you do what has to be done. So he brings the service truck up and we proceed to slowly pump fuel using a 12V pump out of the truck's fuel tank. Mind you, the pump that we were using was not exactly fast. Added in the constant stream of expletives from the foul-mouthed trucker, it was not exactly a fun job. Finally, after an hour and a half of listening to him, we had transferred the fuel out of his truck and into 2 drums. As he roared off into the distance, I asked my dad, did he seriously waste all that time and energy over 1.94? I can't believe how much a fuss people make over a little amount of money sometimes. Dad looked at me. For the first time in an hour and a half he smiled. He said, his time might be worthless to him, but his math skills aren't that great either. He bought 97 gallons and we pumped 2 55-gallon drums full while he watched, and sure enough we had. Thanks for listening.